All right, welcome everyone to the Elected Officials Transportation Committee meeting here at the Pitkin County BOCC chambers on Thursday, October 23rd. And it's great to see our municipalities here. Welcome. We do have a quorum of all three boards, and so we are going to get started. And in order to do that, I'm going to do a roll call to note our attendance. I'll start with Pitkin County. I'm here, Kelly McNicholas Curry, the chair. Patty Clapper.
I'm here.
Francie Jacober.
I'm also here.
Jeffrey Woodruff.
Present.
All right, and Greg Postman is traveling and sends his regards. For the city of Aspen, we have Mayor Rachel Richards.
Here.
John Doyle is on his way. Bill Goof.
Here.
Sam Rose.
Here.
Nice to see you. And for Town of Snowmass Village, we have Mayor Alyssa Shank.
Here.
Cicely D'Angelo.
Here.
Sure.
Britta Gustafson is on her way as well, and Susan Marolt joining us online. Oh, we got to hear it. Let's. Can we have IT turn up the volume for Susan? You don't hear her.
She's muted. Oh, there she is.
I know. I heard her. Usually in this room, we have to kind of bump it up a little bit. All right, Susan. Let's make sure we can hear you again.
Hi, everybody.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much. Our first order of business today is an approval of the August 14th, 2025 action minutes. Are there any comments or corrections by any E.O.T.C member on the minutes?
I would move to approve the minutes.
Thank you, Mayor.
I'll second.
Thank you,
I'll
Francie.
second.
Oh, I think Francie beat you to it, Patty.
I didn't hear her over there hiding behind her.
I'm such a quiet person.
Is that Francie Jacober? Who said that?
All right, and I will do a roll call vote for this as well. I'll start with Pitkin County. I'm an aye. Patty
Aye.
Clapper? Aye. Francie? Aye. Jeffrey?
Hi.
Mayor, I have Mayor Richards as motioning.
Yes.
John Doyle's not here. Bill Guth?
Yes.
Sam Rose? Yes. And Town of Snowmass Village, Mayor Alyssa Shank?
Yes.
Cicely?
Yes.
And Susan Marolt?
Aye.
Hi, great, thank you. Okay, now I'm going to open up the public comment for items which are not listed for public hearing on today's agenda. We invite members of the public online to raise their hand, or in the room, you can come up, state your name, please, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Thanks, Linda.
Honorary E.O.T.C member Tony Kuhn.
I think I've been for every single meeting since the E.O.T.C started. For the record, my name is Tony Kronberg, and I'd like to say that I feel very honored that I'm the only member of the public in attendance at this meeting. And that also goes to say I'm the only one that's not being paid in this room, either as an elected official or staff or whatever. I just want to put that out there. So now that all 3 of the jurisdictions are in the same room, some of you have heard this before, but I want to try to make sure that we're all on the same page. And as you know, all 3 jurisdictions approved sending a letter to CDOT asking for a reevaluation of the preferred alternative. My goal is to move us from a reevaluation to a supplemental environmental impact study, the primary reason being for emergency access and evacuation management in case we have a wildfire. I'm not quite sure why the 3 boards decided that we only needed 1 bridge to go to the roundabout. As you know, the existing Castle Creek Bridge is going to be shut off to the roundabout, and Castle and Cemetery Lane and McLean Flats Road are going to be shut down for people leaving town because that's the emergency access for the fire department, the medics. That was just demonstrated with the fire at W/J. They had to shut down McLean Flats Road so we could get emergency access vehicles in. That's my primary function is we need 2 bridges to go to the roundabout so that we have 2 ways out of town. And also, when you think about going through a tunnel, You take a look at the Wyoming fire, the Pasadena fire, people burned alive in their cars because people abandoned their cars in a tunnel or the only way out of town. And that's one of my primary reasons. The second thing is that yesterday, the management team for the reevaluation started the process. One of the questions that I have is, and I assume that light rail will be reevaluated because that is part of the 1998 Record of Decision Preferred Alternative. We have to decide if are we going to do light rail or are we not going to do light rail. So according to the federal documents, the preferred alternative, things that have not been implemented need to be reevaluated. Then the next thing is that you have in your packet an information sheet. And the information sheet, which is great, it talks about all the things that are not on the agenda that's being moved forward, like Truscott to Owl Creek Trail, Basalt Connect funding request, Roaring Fork Safe Passages. I would like to see this list be a little bit more comprehensive. We have 2 bridges that will be part of the multimodal project. I have the gondola project. Still can't get it on the agenda for anyone to take a look at it. Then the one thing, and this is a very complex topic right now. Pitkin County, once they receive the $2 million grant from the Department of Transportation, their statement of work is almost mirrors the City of Aspen reevaluation process, except Pitkin County's grant application extends the project boundaries from Brush Creek Park and Ride to downtown Aspen Ruby Park, whereas the city's reevaluation process only looks at the project boundaries in the Record of Decision, which means we're all going to be taking a look at the highway to Buttermilk and the light rail to Service Center Road. Everyone, all your documents.
We are going to resume. So I'm going to go back to Tony Kronberg. Please finish up your public comment, and then we'll move on to the remainder of the agenda.
Okay, so very quickly, it's really basically a question. Pitkin County will be receiving a $2 million grant. They've been awarded it. They just are waiting for the funds. And part of that is to build a multimodal transportation center at the airport. And the statement of work says that you're going to do a NEPA analysis of proposed alternatives. Your project boundaries go from Brush Creek Park and Ride basically to downtown Aspen Ruby Park. The City of Aspen is doing a reevaluation that only goes from downtown Ruby Park to Buttermilk for the highway component and to Service Center Road for the light rail. So my question is, who will be the top dog in this? Because the project boundaries are extended further with Pitkin County's multimodal grant that they will be receiving just for planning, or will the City of Aspen's reevaluation? And so the goal is that both Pitkin County and the City of Aspen can work together and try to get it figured out.
Thank you,
Thank
Tony.
you.
Thank you.
Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Okay.
That was pretty exciting. Here we go.
Yes.
What's exciting? Highway 82?
Okay, let's move on. This will be a public hearing, and we're going to have staff presentation and discussion of the Brush Creek Park and Ride Monitoring and Management Plan. This is a continued conversation from our August E.O.T.C meeting. And I'll kick it over to Linda DePriest. Hi, Linda.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My name's Linda DuPriest. the Regional Transportation Director for the E.O.T.C. We brought the Brush Creek Monitoring and Management Plan recommendations to you all in August. Those were to these 6 recommendations: revise the site management leadership and practices, improve special event permitting process, address overnight parking and public safety concerns, implement wayfinding signage, revisit on-site infrastructure and operations, and all towards the goal of enhancing access to transit services. You all had several questions and directions for us before we could approve the recommendations, so we, staff implemented those. The 3 main directives were first we wanted to finalize the ownership transfer from CDOT to Pitkin County, and that happened on August 28th. We had some comments from Sheriff Michael Buglioni during that meeting and concerns about if we prohibit overnight camping and parking, the folks now who might come back to their car after having too much to drink in downtown Aspen or Snowmass and might want to sleep it off before they drive, are they going to have an option to not get in their car? We met with the sheriff and staff on that issue and came to 2 options. One of those is to start the enforcement at 3 a.m. and enforce till 6 a.m. And then also to follow sort of what Snowmass does in their parking lot, which is that in this situation, a person who might get a ticket for something like that can negotiate or talk to law enforcement about, removing that citation because they were trying to prevent themselves for, DUI or doing something dangerous in their car. So and the sheriff was satisfied with our recommendation from that. And then finally, there were concerns over unhoused individuals that stay at the park and ride. So we got with the Pitkin County Human Services. They've been working on a housing strategy that includes working with unhoused folks, and their report comes out at the end of this year. We had a meeting with them and agreed that as we move towards doing this enforcement program, that we would address individual issues that remained after their efforts to house folks that might stay out there, and that there would be a flexible and lenient approach to that issue. And we're going to continue to talk with them about that as we move forward. So those
Have questions before she moves off this topic?
Yes. Do you want to do that now or wait till she finishes talking about the whole Brush Creek management plan?
Well, I just wanted to ask a question about those 3 points.
Go ahead.
So how is somebody supposed to get sober by 3 a.m.? I mean, what if they arrive at 1 a.m. drunk? They're not going to be sober at 3 a.m. I don't see how that helps.
Well, as we understood it from the law enforcement, is that they still could choose to sleep it off in the car, and that when our parking enforcement folks came through at 3, they would allow them to stay there.
So it's a flexible
It's flexible,
approach. Okay,
absolutely.
thank you.
And he also suggested working with the Tipsy taxi folks also on how they operate and seeing if we can fold them into the process, and also to just monitor it over time and see how much of an issue it is.
Okay. Thank
Bill.
you.
Oh, sorry.
Thanks. I wasn't here in August, so apologies if I missed this discussion, but why do we care about overnight parking specifically?
About prohibiting it?
Yeah.
It is a public safety issue. The Sheriff's Department actually has quite a long and somewhat disturbing list about the illegal activities that happen out there from folks who end up setting up house and staying there for a long time. We've had some violent crime resulting from folks both there and at Buttermilk. There's also public safety issues around how some of the dwellings are operated We have found open gasoline cans next to generators, next to jumper cables strung between vehicles. It's a public safety issue. They also see it as a broken windows sort of issue where the more of that illegal activity you get, the more it attracts more of it. We have an issue with people storing vehicles over there overnight, trailers, business vehicles. It's a problem when we try to do snow removal. We've had some complaints about that. Some of the big events in our valley that stage out there, such as X Games, the World Cup that's coming in, the Jazz Aspen Festival, we run out of parking spaces because people are just leaving vehicles all over the place. It's very difficult to tell if a left vehicle has someone living in it or if it's just someone who's left it there. So one thing we did was seek out some peer communities, ski towns that are dealing with this issue. We talked to Steamboat Springs, Jackson Hole, Teton Village, and then Little Cottonwood and Big Cottonwood Canyon Park and Rides in Utah. And all of those entities and Park City as well, they don't allow overnight parking in any of their park and rides that access their resorts. So, and it's a problem. All mountain communities are dealing with housing. They're dealing with these things. So for all of those reasons, we feel it's a good way to move forward.
Thanks for the explanation.
Sure.
Other questions? Patty?
Yeah, I think this is just the start of a much longer conversation about overnight parking. Because we've been talking about possibility of overnight parking for airport uses. Oh, no.
I think this is just the beginning of a conversation about overnight parking out there. I think we're going to find that we have some valid and credible needs for overnight parking for people who can't park at the airport. That'll evolve when we do the multimodal. If we didn't get the grant, it's frozen again, by the way. So to move forward with that, with a shuttle service to and from the airport or further, I mean, it's just the beginning. This is just touching on the county taking over this site. So I think it's a start, definitely not an end all. But I think there are some valid uses out there for overnight parking. We just have to figure out the logistics behind enforcement and who and where and that kind of stuff. But I think we need to start somewhere, but because we've got a lot of parking issues going on in the county right now, so.
Okay, thanks, Patty. Other questions? Okay, keep going, please.
So in order to deal with all of those kinds of questions and the various things that might bubble up when we start to work on this in the community is our steps of how we're going to implement and manage and monitor as we go along. In fourth quarter of this year, first quarter 2026, our plan is to hold a visioning workshop, which would include a lot of those questions. Create a special event and truck storage permitting system for all the different entities that end up parking big vehicles out there. Outreach to event promoters. And we would start to engage a parking lot management contractor and then start working on the new regs. Then in second and third quarter 2026, we would convene our ongoing stakeholder group that, again, would deal with all of these issues years out. It could be a task force or just a stakeholder group. We would procure the monitoring technology package, conduct public notification of the regulations, and then launch the parking enforcement program. And then finally, fourth quarter and years in the future, we would evaluate the effectiveness of the program, evaluate all of our procedures out there, and continue to solicit public input. And another thing that we could initiate for a lot of questions about that property, now that the county owns it, is consider a master planning process that would look at some other questions. So those are our recommendations and next steps that staff is asking for approval for at this time.
Relative to the Brush Creek Park and Ride Monitoring and Management Plan. Mayor, do you have a question, comment?
Yeah, kind of a question. Linda, how many parking spaces do we have at the Brush Creek Intercept lot now?
The improved pay spaces are 400.
Okay,
Now, we open up the north and the south side lots. The
For the
north
events.
lot gets opened up for X Games, Jazz Aspen, and the south side lot gets opened up on and off for storage of event vehicles, food and wine, X Games stages there.
so how much capacity if those two side lots were available for parking in the future?
Like individual spaces?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. We've got 400. I would imagine it would be 3 times that.
Okay. Yeah, just kind of wondering, thinking about the future, so I appreciate that. When somebody goes for permitting for an event, are they currently charged any fee at all?
Well, the city of Aspen has been managing that. They don't charge a fee, but they do take a deposit.
Okay.
When we start working on that piece of this, we would come back to you all and ask if we want to start charging for that.
Well, that's where I was just going to ask you. I think we should take a look at it, and I'd love to see what our cleanup numbers are after an event like X Games or these sort of things. And, just to recover some of this funds that we're supporting for free parking that can be turned back into transportation or mobility. So, at a certain point in time when you get to that permitting thing, I think we should discuss it, at the very least, how much extra work is on your sheriff's department, how much cleanup work is done, how much things like this. Because if it costs us $2,000 to get it ready for the public to use the following week, we shouldn't be cleaning that up out of E.O.T.C money for these special events. That's just my opinion, but.
SKICO actually not only, of course, manages the X Games and the World Cup and the other big events that stage out there, they also contract during the summer to help out with Jazz Aspen, and they do an excellent job of cleaning up after their own events. That's how they get their deposit back.
Okay.
So we have a great steward in them for some of the biggest events that are happening out there.
That's good to know. I
this point in
appreciate that.
time.
Thank you.
Bill, well, actually, I'm going to jump in and just probe
Go ahead.
Mayor Richards a little bit, and then I'll turn it over to you. Are you possibly suggesting, should we add like revenue generation or collection, refund and collection of expenditures or something along those lines within this?
Potentially.
Next 12
I'd like
months
to at least look at that.
evaluation.
I mean, I really understand the county owns it now, and it's a county decision that would be made. But we're all putting in the money at various times when it needs to be expanded or get the restrooms there or things like that. And it just seems there's a point at which our pot people are asking a lot from it, whether let's do all fare-free buses in the future, or let's do this, or let's do that. So I'm just kind of trying to watch the revenues and watch the expenses. That's all. It's, what was it, $250,000 number in here from ongoing with the E.O.T.C. So that's a pretty big number to manage that parking lot. I mean, I literally can see a point in time if the new 3,000 homes that Garfield County is planning Mid-Valley come to fruition, that you're going to start looking at double decking that parking lot, and having a second level, open air, things like that. But, there's this is something to go on for the next 50 years. It's not something that's going to be settled immediately. I just think we should be open to cost recovery when we can.
Thanks. Bill?
Assuming, if you carve out the special events where obviously there's a lot of additional demand on this parking lot than typical, but assuming that there's more utilization that could happen at those parking lots, have we ever or should we contemplate the opposite of what Rachel was just describing and pay people to park there in order to encourage the use of this lot and assist with congestion issues?
Yeah.
That's an interesting question.
Yeah. I mean, part of it we've been talking about, and goes along with what Bill wants to accomplish, is how do we get more bus service more frequently there? And there's again a lot of things that we just heard today at the Transportation Coalition of how can we make everything free for people to not drive? And it'd be great if I had another $20 million a year. I'd be glad to jump right in, but I don't see it. So I'm just that's all. I'd love to see us with our transportation department, and I think conversations are happening with RAFTA now about additional service. But additional service is going to cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. I'm not going. And during one last comment, I apologize, but during the Transportation Coalition meetings, we've heard kind of repeatedly, hey, you guys think Brush Creek's the answer? Just have everybody drive through Glenwood, drive through Basalt, drive through El Jebel, and park at Brush Creek. What you're planning does nothing to reduce the traffic problems that the commuters experience in Glenwood, Basalt, and Carbondale and El Jebel. So, they're not as hot on, hey, the Brush Creek intercept lot might help serve what Aspen needs or Snowmass, but it doesn't help the rest of the valley.
Thank you. Ceci. Red light on.
Okay. I'm assuming that the decision about expansion will be a part of the master plan, or will it be like future options that are included in the master plan?
And I'm going to invite Brian. You want to come up? There are some. I'm going to let Brian talk about the some of the covenants that are required to stay in the transfer from CDOT over to Pitkin County.
Yeah, so the covenants are just with regard to how the lot's used, not whether it's expanded or not. So expansion could take place on that lot as long as it's used for transportation purposes or non-proprietary public use.
Okay, understood. So, but would that also, would that decision be made within a master plan, or is that just as needed? What is that process?
I would see it as part of the master planning.
Okay,
Yeah,
got it.
Based on what the need is in the future and
Okay.
what those triggers would be to warrant an expanded park and ride there. But I could
That makes
see
sense.
an expanded situation based on what.
Yeah. And just to add to that, I think that I agree. There's likely scenarios where we need more. That being said, elk are using that, and they cross there. There's one, if you drive by it now, there's one that didn't make it that's right there. And we have seen evidence of them in both of the sort of extended lots that only get used a couple of times a year. So I guess I would ask that as we look at this master plan process, that the Watershed Biodiversity Initiative study is just consulted to see if there's any way that we can go about this in the best practice. So how does this minimize the impact to what is a frequently used corridor right now? There's going to be different implications depending on what we do. Like a multi-story parking garage is noisy. There's lights. That will have an impact on animals around there. Extended, everything has an extended human footprint, and I just would love to recommend that we take a look at the Watershed Biodiversity Initiative study as we do that.
Very good.
I would just maybe recommend
Maybe before Brian
such
goes.
folks as part of that stakeholder process. Yeah. Francie.
This might include Brian, I'm not sure, but I'm confused about who has the jurisdictional authority for these decisions. Because if every decision since we bought it is going to go back to the E.O.T.C, there's nothing nimble about that. We're very slow, the E.O.T.C. And so who's the jurisdictional authority here? Is it Pitkin County or is it the E.O.T.C or?
Sure, I might just jump in. I think that the county owns it, and so the county can make decisions about the land and what happens on the land. But as it relates to money coming from the E.O.T.C, to the extent that's needed for improvements or management, I think then you're probably at this level with E.O.T.C for some of that.
Okay. It's just sort of alarming that twice now I've heard something about two-story parking garage with lighting. I don't see the BOCC going that direction. I'm confused about where we're at here in this meeting, honestly. It's like,
I think it's important to understand that it's newly acquired, and so I think we're all trying to feel our way through what next steps might be to really utilize the asset for what's been identified as a solution for traffic congestion. And so I think what we're being presented here are some options to start looking at that comprehensively, and then we can, from that point, be able to make decisions. I think it probably does require some BOCC only conversation and then some E.O.T.C conversation. But I think we are in partnership in many ways as it relates to this management plan, because the funding comes from E.O.T.C.
Can I muddy the waters even further?
Sure, Patty.
And I don't know if it's still in existence, but I believe it might be. We have an agreement with the Brush Creek Homeowners Association. It was a settlement of a lawsuit many, many, many years ago where they have input because it's in their scenic view plane. So, and they were really critical about lighting there, about noise, about emissions, about the hustle and bustle as it stands today, as it stood before we did the improvement. So at some point, I think the Brush Creek Homeowners Association is legally allowed to weigh in. So there's another group that'll have to come to the table, most likely.
Mayor.
Yeah, thank you, Kelly, Commissioner.
Rachel.
Do we have any sort of average numbers that people using the intercept lot parking already in, say, July or February, things like that? What sort of numbers are we capturing already?
The study, to do the study, we had traffic counts out there. They put temporary cameras and they counted all of that in summertime.
Okay.
We didn't get a winter count. It's buried in this long report. I don't know them off the top of my head.
Okay, I just would love to get that information later when
Okay.
you have it. Thank you.
And I might just note one of the large buckets of work involved in this management plan proposal for us today is, revisit on-site infrastructure and operations. So I think a lot of this that we're talking about kind of falls into that bucket for a lot of future discussion. If there's no other questions from E.O.T.C members, this is a public hearing, so I'm going to open it up for public comment and then bring it back to the board for any final discussion and a motion. Come on up. 3 minutes, please.
Hi, for the record, my name is Tony Kronberg, and I've worked security out at the Brush Creek Park and Ride for over 20 years. I've worked for 4 or 5 different security companies, as well as security on the rafter buses. And there are more benefits to having the overnight parking available. From my perspective, there's a small amount of people who drink and sleep out there. And the unhoused situation, that was prevalent during COVID. And you will see maybe 6 or 7 trailers out there. In my experience, especially when I worked at the airport, we had a lot of employees who left at 10 or 11 o'clock at night, had to be back at 5 o'clock in the morning. You know where they slept? In my car at Brush Creek Park and Ride, because that way they could get back and forth. So I definitely think that there's a need there for short-term overnight parking. Then we have special events. For example, there was a semi-truck driver that came in. He couldn't park in town. It was at 2 o'clock in the morning. He had to go all the way to Parachute to park because he didn't want to risk getting a fine parking either on the highway or in Brush Creek Park and Ride. So Patty brought up a really good point that that's a discussion that we really need to have, is the benefits and the uses that we can have for that. And for 15 years now, I have stressed that I think that Brush Creek Park and Ride should be a world-class entrance to Aspen and Snowmass. That's the very first point, and the views from there are spectacular. The other thing is that when I worked overnight security or different jobs in town, that sometimes I need to leave my car. And the only place I can leave it is Brush Creek Park and Ride because I take the bus in. So we haven't had any mention of people like myself who do the overnight shifts. We're not allowed to park in town, especially in the wintertime because of snow removal. So what do? So that's another use that that you can add to it. And then another one that brought forward when Snowmass was doing their town center was that there's a lot of trucks, big trucks that come into town, and it was brought up at the Transportation Coalition meeting today, that they come in with a huge semi, like Steve Wicks' Aspen Drug. He only has a little bit of product that needs to be delivered to Snowmass. So that could be an interchange spot for the semis, and then you don't have to worry Snowmass semis going off the road, Brush Creek or Owl Creek, and closing off both entrances to Snowmass. So, and then the very last thing is that I think it would be great to actually, the technology, everything moving forward, but to, if you feel it, actually have a security person on site. And the companies that I have worked for, a lot of times we do drive-throughs, just like the sheriff. And the sheriffs are, have more important things to do than monitoring Brush Creek Park and Ride, especially at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning when you have an accident on the highway. But keep up the good work. It's been, Patty would know, 15 years now I've been trying to figure out Brush Creek Park and Ride? Longer. At least longer, yeah. Okay, thank you.
Is there any further public comment on the Brush Creek Park and Ride monitoring and management plan? Can you check online, please? Is Susan still with us? Okay. I will check in with the board. I do want to acknowledge and commend the work of Brian Pettit and Linda for many, many years of facilitating this transfer of ownership from CDOT to Pitkin County. I think it will offer a lot more opportunity for us to achieve our goals here in the Valley. And so with that, is there further discussion on this, or Patty?
One quick, it's kind of part of this and kind of not, and I know that Raft has heard about it many times. The signage for people that arrive at the park and ride, that want to catch the bus, the electronic signs that tell you when the buses are coming have been out of commission for a significant period of time. I know there's an app, but when we have visitors that come to town, they don't know about that. They want to look at those signs. So if we could maybe in this interim as we're changing things, get those signs to be working. I don't see any reason why we can't. Because when I go out there, I don't have the app, and it's really helpful if you know, should I catch this bus? Should I wait for that one? When you don't even know what time they're arriving. The signs in the past have been extremely helpful. And people really appreciate the one at the airport we have there now for the Raft to Bus signs.
Thanks, Patty.
Thank you.
Do you need a motion for this?
I had one quick comment.
Yes.
I mentioned this when Linda was at our meeting on Monday, but I do think it's really important that we look into the EV charging at the Brush Creek Park and Ride, because there isn't any. There was before, and now there isn't any. And if you want people to park and get out of their cars, and I mean, that was one of the reasons for the bathrooms. That was one of the reasons for putting some kind of food or drink there. Like, it is a spot that people, I think, assume there would be charging, and there is not. And I think it's a missed opportunity for many reasons. So, thanks, Mayor.
I would agree with that. I've gotten a couple of emails about that very situation recently.
It's in the plan, right?
Since I met with y'all, I've added it to the work plan list.
I would say, though, that they can't be the kind of EV chargers that are in Aspen that charge you $80 if you park for more than 2 hours and you can't leave your meeting. So they're going to have to be careful about people who come to work and park there and don't want to go back out there 2 hours later to unplug their car. So that's something that's very specific and very necessary if you want people to charge out there. So.
Well,
hearing
they don't
energy
charge for
from all
parking
three
there
boards.
to begin with, but that's what's happening in Aspen,
Yes.
is when people do not move their car and leave it in front of the charger for 8 hours, they get charged.
I'm well aware.
In the previous grant we applied for, it was for level 2 only. So it would be for the people that are leaving their car for many hours, commuters or whatever. There was a question at the time, and CDOT was dealing with this question all over the state, of if you put the level 3 chargers, which is basically a gas station, out in a parking lot. Bless you.
What do you mean a gas station?
It's a fast charger.
It's the fast chargers that cost a lot more to charge up your car. There was a question from CDOT if that would be considered a commercial use of that land. That things have evolved probably since then.
God.
Yes, but we own it now, so
We can do whatever
we'll
we want.
we'll visit all of that when we revisit finding the money to do that for a grant.
So you mean it might be considered a non-proprietary enterprise of some kind?
Yes,
Wow.
Interesting.
maybe.
Don't both charge? Like, charge money?
No, the level twos would have been free.
Oh,
All right, I don't want to bog us too far down, but we'll note there's lots of excitement about this topic from all jurisdictions
Thank you,
for
Linda.
future
And
discussion.
Brian.
I would make a motion to approve the Brush Creek Park and Ride monitoring and management plan as presented with the comments made at the meeting taken into consideration by Linda.
Thank you. Is there
I'll
a second?
it.
Thank you.
One
Okay,
last
this is
comment
a-
real quick.
Yes, and then
What
we'll do a
about
roll
the-
call.
The AI are we going AI? I'm really nervous after today's event, especially how things can get into the wrong hands.
The monitoring that
Get
we've
further discussion.
the monitoring we've looked at would be license plate readers,
I know, but people are going to wonder where that's going.
right?
It's a privacy thing. So if that's up for further discussion, just want to note that.
Okay.
Okay, I'm gonna, is there any last final comments? Great, I'm gonna call a roll call vote. I'll start with Pitkin County. Myself as the chair, I'll say aye. Patty Clapper.
Aye.
Francie Jacober.
Aye.
Jeffrey Woodruff.
Aye.
Thank you. City of Aspen, Mayor Richards.
Yes.
John Doyle.
Yes.
Bill Guth.
Yes.
Sam Rose.
Yes.
Town of Snowmass Village, Mayor Shank.
Yes.
Cicely D'Angelo.
Yes.
Britta Gustafson.
Yes.
And Susan Meralt. Oh, we can't hear Susan again, but I saw that you said yes.
Give her a thumbs up.
Okay.
She's got the thumbs up.
Can you try one more time, Susan?
She
Once
just
we
raised her
reboot it?
thumb.
There we
Okay,
go.
great.
There we go.
Thank you. All right, let's move on to our next discussion and public hearing, which is the 2026 work plan and budget. I'll turn it back to Linda for presentation, please.
So I visited with all of y'all in the past couple of weeks about this, but for the purpose of this public hearing, I'll quickly go back through it again. This is our budget for the transit sales and use tax. The column in green is for 2026. I'd like to note that this isn't all of the transit sales and use tax that the county collects, of course. That figure is between $25 and $30 million a year. Most of that goes off the top to RAFTA. And then a significant portion also goes to fund the transit systems in Snowmass and Aspen. And then a small portion comes to the E.O.T.C each year. So the revenues for 2026 are estimated at $3.6 million. Expenditures at $2.1 million. We have an annual surplus of $586,091. That's mostly from the money that we saved for the Brush Creek Improvement Project 2 years ago. So our beginning fund balance is $12.7 million. The ending fund balance for the year will be $14,361,350. We have with the ongoing $6 million that's reserved for the Snowmass Transit Center. If we add that total to the fund balance, the total is $20,361,350.
So
So
let me just pause there. Any questions about the numbers currently? Yes, Rachel.
Yes, thank you. Now, there are unbudgeted items that are just kind of hanging out there at all that I'm trying to think of. You know, you listed at the end a number of different items, work that's continuing. The trail from Truscott or Truscott improvements to reach. Are there other items that are expected to be coming from this number, I guess is the best way to say that. You know, like the restrooms finished. I mean, it says we're going to refab the restrooms, but is the subtraction of the cost of the restrooms at the Brush Creek in that budget already?
the on-site, the design and site prep for the new restroom idea scheme is included later on for the budget for this year. So it's included in there. That number that we saved from the flap project is just part of our whole budget that's in reserve.
Okay,
So-
but we have to make sure we use the flap grant for what we said we were going to use it for. And that's why I'm wondering if we're planning to build the restrooms in 2026, if there's anything that we're planning or we know we need to do that's sitting there in the, fund balance at this point.
So to clarify, that money was allotted by the E.O.T.C. for the contingency fee that the feds required us to have in reserve. So that's where that 1.36 million is money that we didn't have to spend, but that you all did approve for that project. So that money could be tapped into for the restroom design going forward if we go into construction on this new idea.
Okay, yeah, no, that's all I was really wondering is, are there other things that we know that are out there that may come from that reserve or the fund balance? And you're saying that some of it, yes, might be the restroom if that design goes forward.
There's everything else that we plan to do in 2026 is accounted for in individual line items.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so the Brush Creek parking right optimization, the monitoring and management implementation will go forward. The new restroom design is it's a prefab design that we got some consultation with from an engineering firm that we could possibly end up doing for around $1 million rather than the $6 million, which was the design that was included in the flat project that we couldn't afford. We'll start the site planning for the engineer site planning for that prefab design this year in 2026. Then in the work plan will be all of the work to transfer all of the operations, transferring it over from the city of Aspen, setting up the permitting system and all of those other operational details. And then we will revisit the EV charging system. Second in the work plan are some items associated with the airport. When the airport closes in 2027, the town of Snowmass's transportation director, Sam Guarino, brought up to the E.O.T.C. staff that Snowmass Tourism and he were discussing what are our options for bringing visitors to town during that closure time. And we have communicated with ACRA, and as staff feel that it is something that we just need to pay some attention to and get together and talk about what our limitations and options might be there, and possibly present a plan later in the year. Then the airport modernization project, I am involved peripherally with the project team on that, just offering local planning issues and expertise as needed with that. And then I suppose, Commissioner Clapper, you heard we're not getting the modes?
It was frozen again last I heard.
Was frozen again.
Third time. It's a charm.
Okay. All right, so who knows what's going to happen
We're
there.
working on it.
If we get it there will be a great deal of planning and project management work to be involved in. Don't know the extent to which my staff time will be needed for that. And then our additional projects we're continuing with the construction on the Buttermilk Crossing, and we brought some drawings for Councilmember Gustafson. You asked for that. The ABC multimodal plan is progressing well. By April, we will have some recommendations from the consultant about bicycle and pedestrian treatments, possibly some changes to street circulation, maybe creating some more additional on-street parking for all the businesses out there. And finally, you all have asked for us to plan a strategic planning retreat early in the year. In the prep meetings, we had a question about the progress of the Truscott Trail. So I've invited the city of Aspen to come up and talk to us about what is going on with the planning of that in their system. So,
Do we have another seat up there?
Welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having us. It's nice to see everyone. I'm Austin Weiss. I'm the Parks and Rec Director for the City of Aspen, and joining me tonight is Brian Long, our Trails Manager. We'll give you, a brief update here, and are happy to answer any questions that y'all might have. We are continuing work on this project. We have, now I'll let Brian provide some details here, but right now, one of the missing links.
I'm sorry, I just want to interrupt real
Yes.
quick because I do think we have some new members that maybe have not
Heard
heard the background of why we're talking about this. So I might just look to have a little more detail on the context of
Okay.
how we got here, what we want to achieve.
Brief
Then we'll
history.
turn it over to like where we're going.
Okay.
Thanks.
Brief history of this project. Back in 2020, and my predecessor's back in the room, so he might have something to add. The Upper Valley Transit Enhancement Study was initiated by the E.O.T.C. Engineering firm Mead and Hunt ran that, and what came out of that were some ideas to move buses quicker into town from the airport area on into town. 3 main recommendations, several came out of it, but 3 of the main ones were to create a transit queue jump at Harmony Road was one of them. The second was to build a pedestrian underpass at Buttermilk. The third was to improve this trail to help multimodal access into town for all the traffic generators on that side of the highway. The first 2 items, the queue jump, through continuing engineering analysis of it, it was decided it wasn't going to work. There were big safety issues with that, so that idea was abandoned. You all voted down the proposal. It was going to be a $20 million price tag for an underpass, a pedestrian underpass at Buttermilk, and y'all decided not to go forward with that. So this project is the one remaining from that bundle of projects.
Thank you very much.
Can I further clarify?
Yes.
I brought this forward way before that to try and increase public safety at the crossing at Owl Creek Road, to keep people that are on bikes, and now with WeCycle, it would be great. And it was only to run to Maroon Creek Underpass for the golf course. At some point, it grew to go to Truscott. So I want that to be kept in mind, that the original proposal was just to get people to the underpass, safety for pedestrians and bike, to get them to that point. So I know there's issues, which I'm sure you're going to go into, about from Maroon Creek underpass to Truscott. So I have some suggestions, but I'll let you continue. But it's been talked about for a long time in and outside of any transportation corridor issues. It's mostly about pedestrian and bike safety.
No, and I
Thanks,
completely-
Patty. And thank you for some level setting here. Thank you. Go ahead.
And thanks for that, Patty, because I know in the parks and open space, in the board setting, we've talked about this connection for many years as well. So with the goal of connecting it all the way to Truscott, we've been most recently focusing on some of the challenges of integrating it into an already existing underpass there. It is an underpass that is not currently designed to accept a trail connection. It's actually woefully underbuilt and underdesigned for even the existing needs out there today. Right now, the biggest hurdle is we're working with neighbors to try to secure the right-of-way to facilitate a project to expand and open up that underpass to allow for a trail connection. Currently, there is not the existing right-of-way to make that happen in a functional manner. Brian has been working hard with the neighbors there, and we're just kind of starting some negotiations there. We're hopeful, but with any negotiation, we'll just have to see how that plays out. We've been working with our open space board in prioritizing various projects over the next 5 to 10 years. Right now, we do have money earmarked for this project in 2030, but a lot of this if we do want to make that connection all the way to under the underpass at Truscott, a lot of that's going to rely on the acquisition of this parcel, or not complete parcel, but purchasing some right-of-way to make that happen.
Great, thank you. Questions or comments on this? Patty?
Well, I understand the easement issue. I think waiting another 5 years, I'm sorry to say, is unacceptable. We're going to have somebody killed at Owl Creek and Highway 82. We already had significantly injured. We already had one that happened many years ago at the airport. Then we did the underpass there and stop people from crossing there. I don't want to see that happen. So I'm hoping we can look at, with engineering, you can engineer anything, as we all know with land use. If we could just do the trail as soon as possible from the parking lot at Buttermilk to the underpass at Maroon Creek to get people safely across to the bike path on the other side of the highway. And in the future, when we work out the easements and all that, if we design it correctly, it won't be you have to rip it all up and start over again. You can design it to finish the segment, which would also be helpful for people that live at the housing there by the pomegranate to be able to, if they could, some of them can't walk that far, to get down there to give them another safe passage across the highway. But I think waiting another 5 years, it's already over 5 years since we've been talking about it. And I think protection of public safety and lives is of great importance. And if you sit there at that corner at Owl Creek, and I know we're going to be addressing some of the right turn issues there, it's very scary. I can't tell you how many times I've crossed and put my hand out on the hood of a car that wasn't stopping and didn't see me as a pedestrian. And I just find it unacceptable for us to have to put it off another 5 years.
Yeah.
Thanks, Patty. Rachel?
Yeah, thank you. I agree with you, Patty, on the need for the trail there to connect the Owl Creek underpass. It's kind of unfortunate that it wasn't placed closer to Buttermilk to begin with, but we all are cleaning up things in the past. I think it's just important to kind of realize that the city has, just like your open space and trails, has a whole series of projects and things that have been programmed in for a long time. If the county open space and trails wants to help pick up some of the money on that, then maybe we could do it sooner than 2030. But they're talking about budgeting it further out because of other commitments our voters have voted for, such as the Lift 1A open space and parks. That's going to be a major open space undertaking, and we have a few others. So there's ways to speed it up, perhaps, if there's a little more joint funding.
I think I think Francie has actually spoken.
Yeah. So Ward and I talked to Dave Tanner about this several years ago, and he was interested in helping, especially when they were talking about bike training in the parking lot or something. Remember that bike training thing?
Yeah.
So anyway, I think that's a place to look, is with Aspen One.
And just that first segment, I'm not asking for a whole complete fancy-dancy trail. I'm just talking about protecting lives.
Yeah.
And I think that's critical. My dog agrees with me.
Thank you.
She's a talker.
Very good.
We have other items in the work.
Thank you. I would like to see it move forward, and I will be adamant, as you can tell, about
See if
that.
there
Sorry,
are
guys.
other questions on this topic for City of Aspen. All right, thank you for joining us. Appreciate that.
Thanks. Good to see you guys.
You as well.
All right, Linda, thank you. Keep going.
All right, so during the prep meetings, I was also asked to bring some more details about the Buttermilk pedestrian and bike crossing, the at-grade crossing we've been working on since it was decided not to move forward with the underpass there. So the 5 main elements of what we're thinking to implement is putting in a designated right turn only lane with its own signal head. Right now at that intersection, you've got a left turn lane and then you've got a combo left and right, which gets very confusing to how cars queue up to go around that turn. And it makes that queuing up difficult for motorists to see a pedestrian that's standing waiting to cross.
Are you describing coming out of Owl Creek?
Owl Creek onto 82.
Okay, thank you. I wasn't sure which.
Yeah.
what you were
Eastbound
talking
onto
about.
82.
Okay.
Yeah. We are going to add a curb and gutter there because there's nothing out there now. We're going to shift, right now the pedestrian signal button, when a pedestrian walks up there, where they have to stand to push the button is actually they are blocked from view by the signal box from a motorist who's queuing up to turn. So the motorist can't even see a pedestrian, that there's a pedestrian anywhere near. So we're going to move that button a few feet to the west so that pedestrians are visible when they're standing there and waiting. We're moving the button and the waiting area several feet the other way. The new signal, we're putting in back plates around the signal so that they're more visible to the motorists. And then we're going to put in nighttime lighting all around the whole intersection that will light the crosswalk and pedestrians in the whole area. Those are the main design treatments that we're planning right now. I have 2 shots of the engineering drawings for here. This shows the new turn lane configurations with the curb that we're going to put in, and indicate some of the pedestrian scale lighting and where we're going to locate it. It will be in this actual radius of this turn. It will also be across Owl Creek and then across 82 for that new lighting. And then this just shows the signage that will go in. If you can see, I wish I had a pointer, where we're going to be moving the pedestrian button and the waiting area closer to the corner there. Does my cursor work?
No.
We can see it.
I have a really twitchy cursor. I don't know if it will be helpful.
There's always a delay with like on the
Yeah.
screen to zoom.
But anyway, so those are the 2 plan views that we thought made the most sense to show you.
Kelly, it's my understanding CDOT will not allow us to put a no right turn on red.
We asked them
But what about a
for,
turn signal?
well, we asked them, oh, thank you.
Use a pointer. Okay.
Now she's going to blind everybody with her
Watch
laser.
out, Kelly.
I know,
In the line of fire.
Okay,
We can,
right there is where we're gonna move the pedestrians to stand and be more visible. And we've spent a lot of time standing out there ourselves to make sure that we can see everybody much better. Thank you.
And
Oh,
Cicely, did you have a comment?
It was basically the same as Patty's. Was just like, could we do a turn arrow light?
So we asked them for the intersections that you all have in Aspen where the leading pedestrian interval, where right turning cars have a red arrow for a few seconds so that pedestrians get a head start. We asked them for those, and they didn't feel good about doing those at this highway intersection.
but they didn't feel good. They said we couldn't do a no right turn on red, and we can't do
Right.
an arrow for people. It's great if you can see the pedestrians. They don't look for pedestrians. They come around that corner and they don't even slow down. They make a quick right. They get into the bus lane before they merge over, and they don't even. And if I stop, if I'm turning onto the highway from there, they almost run me over in my car to try and get. Sometimes people pass people to make that right turn in a hurry.
I have
It's
seen
really
that.
bad.
It's terrifying. The putting in the curb treatment that we're putting in, it's going to tighten up that radius from what it is now, because now it's just this wild space and cars just whip around it. Putting in this curb we asked them if we could tighten it even more to slow down that right turning movement, but we have to accommodate buses and the big vehicles, trucks coming out of Buttermilk. So there are limits to how much you can tighten a radius in a curve on a highway, feeding the highway. So that was a tad disappointing for me. I was pushing for the LPI and the no right turn on red because there's a lot of data to support no right turn on red, but we couldn't do it.
See, perfect reason to build that trail to the underpass.
Bill,
I'm not talking the underpass at Harmony. I'm talking the underpass at Burn Creek. Thanks, Kelly.
At the risk of both sounding ignorant and stirring the pot, I'm super supportive of increasing pedestrian safety and think that this is a good project. I just not really sure I understand why E.O.T.C is doing it as opposed to the county or CDOT. And I want to make sure that we're focused in this effort on transportation initiatives, and this seems to me not to be really specifically. I get you could make a tangential argument, but this is not really a transportation initiative to me. So
I could make an argument for you.
I think you can make the argument, and I get it, but I think it's very tangential. I don't think that it's like, it's not moving vehicles. It's not moving a lot of, a large quantity of people even. I don't know.
I mean, I guess I would say, you know, because I do use Buttermilk parking lot a fair amount for a number of reasons that, you know, right now, if I want to park at Buttermilk and then take a cycle into town, I have to cross at this. And that, you know, that saves a ton of time for me, not sitting in a car, mostly getting out of town at the end of the day, because I can just hop on a bus to Buttermilk, get my car, and head down Valley. You know, I think that increasing safety at this intersection increases your incentive to use the Brush Creek Park and Ride as a park and ride, because it's a pretty terrifying crossing right now, especially if you have kids on bikes, which happens a lot, and I see a lot. So I respect your question. I hope that E.O.T.C will fund this. I'll say I'm disappointed that there's not a right on red, because one of the issues I see in the morning is, because I live in Burlingame, people coming out of Burlingame have no space because the traffic crossing through Owl Creek can't pass through because there's 10 cars whipping the right turn when they have a red and should be stopped at Owl Creek so that the eastbound Highway 82 traffic can pass through the green light. It causes a, you know, cascade of effects that make the merge worse.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think we should press on that topic more, because it's not a big deal for people at Owl Creek to queue up 10 or 15 cars. They will have plenty of time when their green light comes to get on 82. They're not going to get stuck through multiple light signals. It's a long enough light.
Yeah.
So
I think we should push CDOT.
anyway, so that's a concern for me.
All right.
For me on that. And I think it'd be great to further justify to Bill how this is connected to E.O.T.C as well.
Like,
Yeah, I just
I
wanted to
totally
respond
get
to Bill.
using E.O.T.C dollars. It's more for me about the efforts and the focus. Like,
the-
and you
I
made
think-
all good arguments. I totally get it, and that's why I said I understand how you can make a tangential argument, but it's just like not. It doesn't strike me as like a purely transit
Right. It's like an
I think-
intersection.
initiative. And
I think it's transit. All the people crossing there are going to get on the bus. That's where they're going. So it's access to the bus stop. That's why it's transit.
That's your
oriented.
nexus.
Yes, Cicely.
Is there like a not knowing the best way to potentially make a case to CDOT? Would a letter from each entity, if the entities were willing to do that from Snowmass, Aspen, and Pitkin County separately, would that potentially be helpful?
I would like to think so. And I personally, with my background in bike and ped design, really was pushing for these things. So we're only at 90% design with them. We're setting up a meeting with them soon on that 90% design. So we'll talk amongst ourselves and
Draft a letter for a signature.
get CDOT in a call and see what our options are.
Okay, I think it'd be great if can we direct Linda to draft a letter for a signature for our jurisdictions on this topic?
Yeah.
Or some head
Okay.
nods. Okay, Rachel.
Yeah, thank you. Cecily, I thank you for continuing to pursue it and find other ways. I think that that's important. You know, CDOT has various departments, and one of them is safety, and they're very different and are very cautious because anything happens when they've said do it, they kind of made the mistake. I think that it's going to take more than a letter. It would take some real visuals that we could send that kind of explain this more clearly, that we could have 10 cars making a right onto there and the intersection backing up and not able to even get in. I think it needs a bigger context for them to understand it. And that's all I can really recommend. And I would be happy to sign a letter along those lines and invite CDOT up to actually take a look at it when we're in business in December.
Yeah,
And
so
think
show me
about,
just
see what it really operates, how it really operates. Separately, I wanted to kind of mention that I've seen last winter significant number of people parking on Owl Creek Road to go over and use buttermilk when the buttermilk lots filled up. And one time I was doing a delivery up to buttermilk, there were probably 25 cars on the airport side, and the sheriff's officers were out there to do tickets. So I think it'd be good to kind of look at, should there be a curb there or some rocks placed there or something to keep cars from illegally parking on the airport side of Owl Creek Road and going over to Buttermilk or going to catch the bus. But that needs to be dealt with too.
But where are you supposed to park if Buttermilk lot's full?
You're not supposed to be able to park there. You can't park, it's just like saying I could park on Main Street because parking garage is full.
But who does that bother?
It's a safety problem.
And it's illegal
It's
to
a
park.
county
It's
road.
illegal to park.
Well, maybe we should be creating more parking there, is my point.
There used to be a big dirt parking lot across from Buttermilk there. And when we bring our kids up on the school buses, we would park over in that dirt parking lot. And it was a lot of overflow parking, and it was great.
Yeah, that's my
But
point. It's
you
like, why
gotta
is that a bad
realize
thing?
that Owl Creek Road was already moved over into that dirt parking lot to make more parking next to Buttermilk now. And
Oh, is that what happened?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah, that's what happened. And so you already increased the Buttermilk parking lot. I just don't believe, we should start saying, hey, everyone can park on Brush Creek Road when the parking lot's filled in Rodeo Lot. I mean, this is, at that point, you should have taken a bus to go ski in Snowmass or ridden one of the buses. But, unless we want to double the parking lot and have a layered parking lot at Buttermilk, I don't think it should be encroaching on the airport, and it's dangerous.
Vail has that very same issue when all their parking lots are full, they start parking on the frontage road.
Oh, they sure
Oh,
do.
yeah,
The
yeah.
whole length of it.
It's not very well managed there either.
It's allowed.
Yeah, it's allowed.
It's allowed
Because
there.
it's Vail.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Are there further comments on this? Oh, this is the total, that was the last project to cover in the work plan.
Of the questions that came from y'all from the prep meetings.
Okay.
I have one really quick thing to add to this intersection. I want to make it clear that the underpass was kiboshed because of expense. And because it's a grade issue, and there's also a huge amount of infrastructure there, utilities, et cetera, so it was very expensive. It would be triple that now. We learned that at the underpass at the airport. The other thing is we looked at an overpass there, and that was nixed by the community because of, excuse me, scenic view planes and other issues. It also required a lot of infrastructure on either side of an overpass. So we have looked at all the options for safely crossing people there. And I think the trail to the underpass is a perfect solution. But thanks, I just want to put that on the record.
All right, thank you. All right, Linda, we'll turn it back over to you.
So some of the, sorry about that. So the budget figures attached to the work plan items, a very high estimate for the monitoring and management of Brush Creek is $250,000. We're pretty sure we can bring it in a lot less than that. The restaurant site prep, pardon me. No, I don't know, no restaurants out there. The Brush Creek restroom, the new direction that we think is a good way to go. We can't use the design from the previous one because it was an expensive design. So the prefab design is still going to require some engineering site prep. And that's estimated at around $350,000. The buttermilk crossing construction treatments that we just showed will be an additional $342,000. And then I just wanted to show currently the Brush Creek operations, everything that we pay for out there, the snow removal, repairs, landscaping, trash, is around $122,000 a year. And then additional items in the budget, the transit, the contribution that the E.O.T.C makes to transit during the X Games, $115,000. The regional recycle, E.O.T.C's contribution to the entire regional system is $140,000. And then at the bottom of the budget, we have a rather large line item that we've had questions from y'all about in the past. So I'm breaking out some of those costs here. Starting last year, we asked for and you all approved a contingency fund for things such as if we get an opportunity to apply for a grant, we have money to match that without having to come back and ask y'all for that. We're going to spend some money on the retreat this year and other things that might come up. The county's overhead charge to operate the E.O.T.C, which includes HR costs, finance, all of the management staff that oversee it, all of the people that get involved. A lot of times we end up getting a lot of help from our road and bridge department on different elements out at Brush Creek. All of those functions cost the county around $281,000 a year. And then finally, this last item is the county's property risk allocation.
Questions on these? Francie?
So the X Games fee. I can't remember the name of the new company that runs X Games, but why are they paying that? Why are we paying that?
Well, that question has come up in previous years, and last year we did bring that question to you, and John Rigney from SKICO.
He's not here.
Is not here, but we do have some SKICO folks here that were willing to come and talk about that. He came last year and presented all the issues to you all, and I believe it was a unanimous vote to support it again. So it's an ongoing question, but in the past, you guys have continued to support that.
But SKICO doesn't make money in the X Games. This other company does, whatever the name of it is. I can't remember.
Would you like to? SKICO's here if you'd like to hear from them.
Sure, if they want to come up.
Can we make some room, please, Ryan? Thank you.
Poor Ryan. Up, down, up, down.
Hi, welcome.
Hi. I'm Joey Waltemath with the Aspen Ski Company, Director of Event Operations.
Darren Eshaw, Aspen Skiing Company, Event Operations.
You might want to get the mic a little closer so that the public can hear you. Thank you.
Red light on.
If we have any public left after that bomb.
Okay. I'm not going to speak to what money they make or don't make. I think the most important thing is providing safe and reliable transportation for all the guests that come to X Games, and it is an iconic community event that we all support, and we appreciate the support of E.O.T.C, and I think it's important that we continue that.
Well, I do too, and I don't think SKICO should pay it. And John told us when he was here recently that you don't make money at X Games. But so I think that, what's the name of the company that runs the X Games now?
MSP.
Yeah,
MSP.
that's who I'm suggesting pay it, not SKICO. And I agree with you. We need to have safe transit and everything, but it just seems like it's a profit-making company, and I don't know. We're not.
Bill?
I think in the past, X Games has been an amazing community benefit with a lot of great events to attend and a lot of economic benefit for the community. I think the last couple of years, it has been less so. I have no problem continuing to fund this if SKICO and MSP do a better job of making it a local live event again like it used to be. If this is a made-for-TV production, which I don't think I went this past year, but I went the year before, and it very much felt like that and had very little sort of community benefit in my eyes. I would certainly not support that in the future. So that would be my sort of gut feeling on
I don't know who
the
was
future.
handling
I have no
it.
problem supporting it today.
Patty?
Yeah, just so you know,
Rachel
when
and
we just
Cecilia?
reviewed the first preliminary plans for X Games, the board last year made that same point, just the Board of Commissioners. And we were concerned about making everybody pay and what happened in the community nature. I think they listened to us, and so they changed it to some free admissions, some local passes for students. They really had listened to us from last year. And I think you're right. The marketing it does for our community, especially if it snows, really helps our local businesses and the economy. And the fact that it's a no parking event. A lot of people though, God, riding the bus wasn't that bad, or riding the shuttles that and it may enlighten more people to park at Brush Creek and ride the bus. So for other issues at Buttermilk or in town. So I think it's huge. And I think last year we gave them this much and the ski company said we might not need it all because of the ridership and all those things. So I don't know what happened at the end of the day last year, but I'm sure the ski company has talked with MSP, the company that now owns X Games, through ESPN. I think you guys probably have a part of your contract with them addresses some of this. So thank you.
Rachel.
Patty just said what I was going to say. So, I agree with her entirely. And I agree with everyone that thinks there should be more community activity with the event. And I think that that's something, over the years, ski company's done a great job modifying and changing it as we've seen issues. People remember the year when the concert was in Wagner Park and all the people started walking across
down
the
the town.
bridges in the snow, in the dark. So we've dealt with a few things. One thing I always remind the X Games people or whoever it is now, MSP, is to make sure there's really avoiding of crush factor at the base so that, crowd control, no one can get crushed in there. I've seen it be close to that. And otherwise, I'm happy to support it this year, but I think continuing to get that back to the community emphasis is going to be important as you come forward next year.
I do think that they listened to all the comments that were made and made some big strides this year with it being free during the day for people and then just ticketed at night, bringing back the concerts and snowmobiles. And they're definitely, I think it was probably a struggle after COVID to get it back up to where 2020 was probably the best year that we had. And I think that they're getting there. So
Great.
Yeah, I was impressed with the presentation when you guys came before us. I thought there were some significant changes.
Yeah.
I know that E.O.T.C doesn't have a whole lot of extra money to spend, so it seems like a profit-making organization could cover that. It's probably small for them.
All right, other questions? Clint?
Isn't this a payment directly to RAFTA? This 115 doesn't go to Ski Code, goes to RAFTA. Yeah, I'm just.
Yeah.
that's it.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions on these additional budget items? Linda, anything else to present?
Just our proposed meeting dates. The staff and managers have talked about meeting 3 times next year in addition to the retreat in January. But we can finalize these when we meet with a leadership team. I'm hoping it is the mayors and the commissioner about planning for the retreat that I would like to do in this quarter, 2025. And these can change or go down to 2 meetings or whatever. But this is what we're proposing for meetings and topics that would come up at the time. There's a lot going on in 2026. So,
Okay.
We need a
Rachel?
vote on the other one though, don't we?
We do. We need to open a public hearing too. I just wanted to.
Good luck
The
getting
whole agenda.
Well, I wasn't sure if this was part of the work. It makes sense to be part of the work plan.
loosely
So
is.
when
That's
we're
it.
gonna
That's it for
do
the work plan and budget.
I was just going to say, I would need to check some of these dates against CML and CCI meetings so that we can have full attendance. Other than that, I am glad we're meeting regularly and starting to set the dates up and things are starting to happen. I would be happy to be on a steering committee with Alyssa and Kelly to talk about the
Again.
retreat. To me, there's a real need to talk about what sort of short-term and interim measures we all might be able to make to improve traffic until we actually see the kind of conclusions of the ETA and can start pursuing the funding of that. But we're going to live with the current traffic conditions at some level for quite a period of time. And so how can we find interim and short-term measures that make sense? And at that point, it's going to be how do we really join together E.O.T.C work, the 21st Century Transportation Coalition work, the airport work, and our own work with CDOT into a single plan and how to approach that and what is our process going to be for that. What do we want to make sure is included? So those are the things I've been thinking about for a retreat coming up or one day symposium, whatever we want to call it.
So nice to hear you say.
Thank you.
about coming together.
You go.
Unfolding the lumberyard.
Well, Alyssa just pointed out to me
What's that?
that we have a significant Northwest Colorado Council of Governments Economic Development District meeting on January 22nd.
Okay.
It can change. I sort of just threw these against the
Okay,
wall.
just to let you
Yeah.
know that. The other thing, as far as doing a retreat, I'm looking at Ryan for this like November and December. Get in line because the BOCC, we're stacking our deck right now with airport visits, with our own retreats we're doing internally here, and with holidays.
And that's one of the dates for the Jackson Airport.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
We'll spend more time coordinating what times work for all of our
Yeah.
boards. Everyone's got something going on. But you guys have a lot.
we have a lot.
Okay, I want to open the public hearing for the 2026 work plan and budget. Tony, would you like to public comment on these items? Come on up.
Thank you very much, Kelly.
Yes.
This is really the gist of everything is the money. For the record, my name is Tony Kronberg, and I wanted to just reinforce from my experience working security and traffic and whatnot, that pedestrian trail from Buttermilk down to Truscott is really needed because in all of the big events, what do pedestrians do? They start walking down the bus lane, and there's no safe spot for them. So I would definitely encourage you to move that one forward. The second one is the Buttermilk Light, the pedestrian, is that part of my job during X Games and concerts and whatnot is to stand there with State Patrol and whatnot. And what I have found happen is that the crosswalk is too far into like going to downtown Aspen where it should really be moved to the corner of the intersection so people can actually see you standing there for what it's worth. And then the next thing is that Rachel brought up, she wanted to know if there was any unbudgeted items that have not been presented to the E.O.T.C yet. And I would like to read to you, this is from the mission statement, the summary of state statute and ballot requirements, that the 0.5% county transit sales and use tax shall be used for the purpose and financing, constructing, operating, and managing a public fixed route mass transportation system within the Roaring Fork Valley. And that, of course, goes all the way down to Glenwood. But the definition of a fixed route mass transportation system, according to the federal guidelines, is either a light rail, a gondola, or the bus-only lanes. So with that being said, I wanted to thank Linda very much for including in the airport multimodal planning, the work plan update was that if the grant does come through, which I'm sure is going to come through from the Department of Transportation for the $2 million, that the opportunity is from Brush Creek Park and Ride. And in the application, it states all the way into downtown Aspen. Talks about safety, pedestrian. So we're looking at the corridor from Brush Creek Park and Ride to downtown Aspen Ruby Park. And I just wanted to, you may know this already, but we started a nonprofit for the Highway 82 Gondola Project Aspen. And that's the name of the nonprofit, Highway 82 Gondola Project Aspen. That is going to be coming before you. It will solve almost 99.9% of all the issues that you're talking about here tonight, as well as the Transportation Coalition for the 21st Century. It will solve so many issues, plus it fits in with the character of town. So I just wanted to give you a heads up that we decided that we were not going to move this forward until after the election in November because there's so many community issues on it. We did not want to dilute the community's focus on all the ballot issues.
Kelly, can I ask who the "we" is that has formed the nonprofit other than yourself, Tony?
I am the registered agent, and what we did was register it with the Colorado Secretary of State, and then we are forming a 501c nonprofit, and right now we are compiling the board of directors, and we've had broad community support, which is what CDOT...
And again, I just said, who is the "we"?
It's a big... The only one I haven't been able to get on board is the elected officials, so to speak.
Who is the "we" that has formed this nonprofit?
So we have not, we formed the nonprofit, and I'm the registered agent on it. And it's a project I've been working on, Rachel. as you know,
No, I
for-
understand, but you
that-
keep using the word "we." I'm just asking, who is the rest of the "we"?
We have not selected the board of directors, and let's put it this way, it's the community at large.
Okay.
So I have from
Okay.
years
No,
ago.
I was just wondering. Thank you. If the answer is no, it's you're not going to say.
So any other questions?
No.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank
All right,
you.
is there any other public comment on the 2026 work plan and budget? Let me just check online in case anyone has called in.
I don't think anybody knows how to call because
They put it up on the GrassRoots screen.
for a phone
For the
call,
phone
not
call.
for.
It would show up as just a phone, not the video. Okay, well then I'm going to close the public hearing and bring it back to the board for any final discussion or a motion. This will be a roll call vote. Rachel?
I just want to make a comment before someone else makes a motion. I'll let someone else do it this time. But I want to get more information on the potential bridge from the Brush Creek Intercept lot to the Rio Grande Trail at the next meeting. I know that was discussed before, way back when. I don't know where it is now. But, you know, with the advent of the electric bikes, and we're starting to really see the Rio Grande Trail become a commuter trail as opposed to a leisure trail, and we're starting to have more conflicts with that. But if we really want people to use Brush Creek Intercept lot, there's, with electric bikes, a lot more people who would consider parking there and coming from that spot. So maybe at the next meeting, we can just have an update on where that happened. I know John Doyle's been very excited about that, and if you want to say a few words, but I want to see where we're at with that.
Okay, and I would maybe suggest if you do want to make a comment, can I hold it for member updates? Which is the next item. Okay. Thank you. Any other comments on the work plan and budget? Can I
I
have a
have
motion?
motion to approve the 2026 work plan and budget.
Thank
Second.
you. Thank you. Here's a roll call vote. I'll start with the county. I'm an aye. Patty Clapper.
I'm an aye.
Thank you. Francie Jacober.
Yes, ma'am.
Jeffrey Woodruff.
Aye.
Thank you. City of Aspen, Mary Richards.
Yes.
John Doyle.
Yep.
Bill Guth.
Yes.
Sam Rose.
Yes.
Town of Snowmass Village, Mayor Shank.
Yes.
Cicely D'Angelo.
Yes.
Britta Gustafson.
Yes.
And Susan Moralt.
Yes.
Wonderful. Okay, that concludes our public hearings and formal action for this meeting. The next item is member updates. So if you'd like, maybe John, I'll start with you if you wanted to update at all on
Sure, I'll
the
just,
bridges, and then we'll just sort of
Push the
round
microphones.
robin.
Sure, I'll just
And I'd
continue.
like to get us all out of here on time at 6 o'clock.
Perfect. Yeah, I just want to reemphasize what Rachel was saying. I think the two-bridge solution to connect the Rio Grande Trail to the Brush Creek Park and Ride and to the ABC, whose residents have been clamoring for a connection to the Brush Creek Park and Ride, with the projects that are going to be happening, the airport, the lumberyard, the entrance to Aspen. Traffic's going to get worse. I think we need to give people more options to get them out of their single occupancy vehicles, and this is a possible solution for that. Let's do it now before it costs twice as much in 5 years.
Okay, thanks, John. Are there other member updates anyone else would like to make? Rachel.
I had heard from Kurt, the director of RAFTA, today. I asked him, Garfield County had been saying they weren't going to fund the hogback route at all this year. But apparently they had a meeting with some of the mayors and Mike Sampson, and he at least has put in a $250,000 contribution towards this from that county. Now, that hogback route is about $900,000 to Rifle. Rifle and Newcastle are not members, or no, Rifle and Silt are not members. Contributing, but we are getting something. But again, that is a new hole of about 700,000 or so that RAFTA, especially if we add the midday service that it really needs to make that route work, is going to be just coming out of the grant that RAFTA had thought that they might be able to use to add more BRT service to the valley. And so we're seeing budget crunches coming down across the board. So that's it. Just as we're trying to increase transit, the money is kind of drying up.
Any other member updates?
I can go from Snowmass. We this summer piloted a transportation van program in Snowmass that was really successful. Sam's here, and it's like the downtowner, but it hit especially for people that live in neighborhoods where there's no bus service. It was a key to get them to certain hubs in Snowmass and to other transit. So it was very successful, and I don't know.
Continue to be explored.
We're going to continue looking at it, but it was met with a lot of positive enthusiasm by the community. So
How long? When did you run it from?
we ran it. When did we start it? Was it
I went June through September.
June through September?
Okay.
Because it was a grant that we got to
Yeah,
it.
it's great.
And so it was, I mean, there's just a lot, Snowmass is super hilly. And I mean, the electric e-bikes situation helped a lot of people this summer. I mean, they were always used. Every time I walk by the stations, they were almost all gone. So that was a real positive, but I think this just added an extra element for people. So hopefully we're going to be able to continue it at some point.
Can I probe you for another update? Oh, sorry, Bill.
Sure.
I'm curious about the transit center. Where that?
What would you like to know?
Well, we haven't talked about it a lot in the recent memory. So just a high level. Is it on hold?
The high level is that we remove doing sort of this incremental plan for right now from the budget. Not because we don't think it's an important project. We just have a lot of infrastructure projects between the Brush Creek and Owl Creek Roundabout, the Little Red Schoolhouse, the draw site. So we decided the community can only handle so much. And we sort of pulled it. But what we did agree to just in our last meeting is that we were going to continue moving forward with the design and hopefully be able to have it so it's design ready. We've also seen a lot of movement between the View Line selling and having new ownership and the mall being up for sale and going in and out of contract and other areas around there. So once we have sort of those newer partners firmed up and to be able to get everyone together and look at the whole area plan and go from there. But we are still contributing design dollars to it. But
That's it.
but
That's really helpful. Thank you.
Yeah. So it's still a priority. We're just trying to listen to the community.
I get it. Yeah, thank you. Bill.
Yep, that was basically what I was getting at. And just a reminder, there's $6 million earmarked for that project in the E.O.T.C reserve. So if it's not happening, which it sounds like it will eventually still happen, which I think is a good thing, but if it's not, then I think we should talk about putting that money to work elsewhere. In Snowmass is fine. I just don't want it to be sitting there
The plan is
forever.
for it to happen. We just want to really firm up the design and also get with some of the newer owners in the surrounding area and make sure that we're, everyone's on board because that whole area could be under construction for various reasons. So, yeah.
Great.
Yep.
You. Any other member updates?
I just want to remind people there's an election going on. And there's many, many ballot questions as far as funding. And there's one that does not require a tax or a tax increase. And it has to do with transportation. So it has to do with transportation, a multimodal center for transportation.
I saw a letter to the editor about this.
Yes, so let's get it done. Yes, thank you. And yeah, I had to put a plug in because it's critical for what we need to do for getting people in and out of this community in a safe way. And also the multimodal transportation center, I think, will be beneficial to people coming and going, helping to reduce traffic that's directly impacted to and from the airport. So that's important. And that needs to be funded with bonding. It's not funded by FAA. So as is a terminal, will be funded by bonding, not by FAA.
Thank you. Thank you. All right.
There is, however, I just wanted to add to it, there is funding available from the terminal grant program, but that expires next summer, so that's why we're trying to.
2026, July. I'm counting the days.
Would you accept a motion to adjourn?
I would.
I would make a
Kelly.
motion to adjourn.
Thank
I'll
you. Is there a
second.
second? Thank you, Francie. And I'm told I do not need to do a roll call vote for this. So all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye.